Time for some highly strange Dark Elf tech. So we've got Scourge Runner Chariots from the outset. MVPs of Warhammer 2 have kind of lost their place in Warhammer 3. Their DPS just isn't what it needs to be, although Chariot improvements should make them a little bit better as Chariots. Remains to be seen. Honestly, haven't had enough time recently to play. As much as I would have wanted, I really wanted to get in and test Chariots, but I know Spellbound, a member of the community, has definitely been putting in some work. I think a lot of the changes Creative Assembly made were actually based on some of his suggestions. So if you're out there, Spellbound, I know you watch a lot of my videos. Appreciate all your hard work. Will you let us know kindly if Scourge Runner Chariots were affected by those changes? I guess we'll see their melee performance in this particular battle, but 3 of them here are mostly known for their ranged anti-large armor-piercing shots here. Quite effective against the appropriate targets. Right over on also got some Doomfire Warlocks, another unit that I have been highly critical of, but let's see how they can do here. Dark Riders with shields, and the High Beastmaster. Honestly, not a terrible lord, but gets lost in the shuffle a little bit with the Dark Elves having quite a lot of good options. Tormentor's Sword, of course, is a nice hard snare. Does give a minus 24 melee attack, obviously, and the cannot move. Pretty short uptime, only 9 seconds, but still pretty decent. Also can give a bonus versus large to another unit with additional weapon strength, and he's carrying the Featherfoe Torque just in case of enemy flyers here, with some bleak swords there as meat shields in the back. Against the High Elves, lacking any Dragon Princes, they do have 3 war lines in the back, Techless Star Dragon, front line of Spearmen, and some archers with light armor. Yeah, a couple of Reavers defending the flanks here. And we see already upgraded Flock of Doom from that Lore of Beasts caster. Of course, you're going Beast Master. You got to get the Beast Caster to go along with it. Flock of Doom, quite effective these days. Very cost efficient, especially on a cheap hero level caster. Can really allow you to go quite wide and spend in other areas of the army. Right now, Scourge Runner Chariots not really being opposed by any artillery or like these war lines chasing them or anything. Are able to just kind of focus here a little bit on killing some of these Reavers. More Reavers coming forward. They're going to have to be careful not to use too much of their ammunition there, though, as the Star Dragon is looming as an absolutely massive threat. We do have some Doomfire Warlocks kind of chilling on the flank here. Probably get a pretty good engagement against the War Lines, remains to be seen, but right now just kind of threatening the High Elves' flank. Techless moving back, trying to get away from Sorceress and the Beastmaster. Once again, going after these Reavers out of position here. Although the Reavers did absorb quite a bit of that Scourge Runner Chariot ammunition, which is definitely beneficial for the High Elves probably in the long run, but not going to stand up too well against multiple charges from units in different directions. A little bit of Flock of Doom from Techless as well to respond. Will be quite effective against those Doomfire Warlocks, given their relatively low HP. And, of course, reliance on their physical resistance and everything to stay alive. I say everything. It's literally just a physical resistance. Their melee defense really isn't much to write home about. Pretty on par for cavalry, to be honest. But, yeah, definitely. They don't say shock cavalry on the unit card, but they should be treated as such. 44 charge bonus isn't insane. It's not like a true, 60-plus knight or something, but still definitely want to be cycle charging with them as much as possible. See multiple Doom Bolts going off here. Those are all the bound Doom Bolts from the Doomfire Warlocks. Just get some extra damage in. More Flock of Doom as well. So a little bit of a skirmish kind of kite build from Rider Rohan, which is not something we see super often from him. But I guess practicing in a little bit of a different playstyle than what he would normally do. But the rush is developing. You can see here it's kind of all hands on deck as these melee engagements get ready to play out. The Doomfire Warlocks casting their Soul Blight debuff here, charging into light cavalry of the High Elves, including the Lions here. Star Dragon's going to drop down in this engagement as the Doomfire Warlocks here kind of faint away. A little bit of bound fiery convocation, going to do some pretty good damage there. A little bit of friendly fire, but definitely solid damage on the Dark Elves. And yeah, Doomfire Warlocks just getting absolutely clobbered there. Unfortunately, the Dragon didn't stay long in that engagement. A little bit of a whiff on that breath attack. Not really going to do much. Really just needed to stay in melee combat there, most likely, and try and get some terror routes. Doomfire Warlocks do have Frenzy, but of course that will not make them immune to Psychology in the long run. So yeah, High Elves then just defending against the Bleak Swords as they kind of wash up on the spear line. Let's see the performance. I mean, they were charging technically into the front of braced spears, but there's not very many spears, and there was quite a bit of Scourge Runner Chariots. They do manage to kind of plow down the line there. Not really a great test of their overall performance, but Doom Bolts falling, Doomfire Warlocks routing. All is right in the universe as more Doomfire Warlocks swing up and around here. Charging from the top of the crater, down the rim. Impacting the High Elves with a little bit of extra force here. Not only from the slope, but of course from Murderous Prowess as well, giving a nice charge buff to all these cavalry and chariots. Definitely feeling some Sirtha Ek vibes from this replay. Dark Elves doing their best Sirtha Ek impression here. But Scourge Runner chariots have used quite a bit of their ammunition. Their missile damage does also get buffed from Murderous Prowess, so if they could take their last few shots at the Star Dragon during this uptime, it would be quite beneficial. But Beastmaster might have to try and go for a risky late game engagement. Will definitely be outclassed by the Star Dragon, but does have some debuffs to try and equalize things, and his own buffs. Tormentor Sword, you know, the Featherfoe Torque, of course, will apply to Star Dragon, so that definitely helps a bit. Yeah, so there we go. So that's more like it. Those Scourge Runner chariots managed to come in, kind of flatten that unit of archers there. That was pretty decent. Okay. Let's keep an eye out. Let's see if they scythe in for another charge on these archers. Their light armor will help them a tiny bit, in theory. But let's see. Looks like the Scourge Runner chariots just kind of avoiding for the time being. I do think they're on fire at will, which is unfortunate. Or maybe they're shooting Teclis specifically, which is actually a much better target than the Star Dragon. Getting rid of the healer first. Always the right call. So yeah, let's see. Get the health bars back up as these chariots want to make their charge. They're kind of blocking each other a little bit there, not getting a full impact. But pretty solid overall. I mean, there's other stuff interfering, but that's just kind of how the game goes, right? You will very rarely see clean 1v1 engagements. That's why testing videos are of questionable value, but that's a discussion for another day. We see a little bit of regrowth on Teclis himself. He just tries to sustain here, but a lot of his supporting forces are gone at this point. Nice Flock of Doom as well. He's going to hit a lot of these units for the Dark Elves, but there's just so much left. Not a lot that can really challenge the Star Dragon, perhaps, but a handful of shots left on some of these Scourge Runner chariots, and Beastmaster himself is really the most threatening things. I mean, all this mess of Dark Elf infantry isn't really going to do much. Neither are the Dark Riders, for example. So, yeah, a little bit of fiery convocation once more. Let's see if the contact is good. Long area of effect does run through this late blob here. It's pretty good. Pretty solid damage. Teclis definitely doing what he can to try and equalize things, but if Teclis gets shattered, that will definitely impact the Dragon's leadership significantly. And the Beastmaster, if it has like support of the chariots kind of blocking in the Dragon, a little janky late game engagement, but could potentially get it done. Scourge Runner's just wasting the last few shots on those spearmen. But the Star Dragon is actually taking some damage here. It is routing all these militia units and has a handful of spearmen moving in to try and give it a little bit of a late game support here. We do have a handful of archers as well. Okay, this is a pretty decent kind of late game. They're both a little tired. Uphill charge. Weakened high elf archers. Decently solid charge for sure. Okay, so yeah, I mean, if Scourge Runner Chariot's melee prowess is, you know, where it should be, or maybe even a little above, then that definitely helps them in their hybrid role. Fulfill much better here. A little side charge into these spearmen. A little hammer and anvil with these bleak swords. Okay, okay. All right. Another clean charge here. Again, very tattered unit of archers, so not the best test. But, again, that's how the game's played in practice. So there you go, shattering those archers. And now, yeah, the Dragon versus everything in the late game. We'll fast forward a little bit as the chariots close. We're going to body block for take hits for the Beastmaster, who gives himself some nice bonus versus large. No AP, well, primarily not AP damage, but still is enough to come in, rout the Star Dragon, and get a nice victory with one of the weirdest builds I've seen in Warhammer 3 for Dark Elves by far. This is definitely something. The Doomfire Warlocks didn't really do anything, but the Scourge Runner Chariots, I have to say, gotta give these guys another look. It might become meta for the Dark Elves in the future. I could definitely see if the melee performance is there, missile performance, it maybe isn't what it was in Warhammer 3, but that's okay. Maybe they'll have a little bit more of a kind of light attack chariot with the missile damage sort of being a nice bonus, perhaps. I don't know. They did get a decent amount of missile damage value here as well, probably. But I don't know. Red or Rohan seem to be prioritizing using them more for their melee component, especially towards the second half of the game. And I think that's maybe where they got, I don't know, hard to say. Tactically, it was huge, definitely chasing off those routing units, but given the amount of value they got, they must have used their ammunition on at least some higher value targets. Techless, we saw them actually targeting a few times, right? Just taking him out. And obviously, gold value-wise, he's pretty expensive, but tactically need to get rid of him in order for the Star Dragon to be gotten rid of in the late game, which Star Dragon quite pays for itself. Definitely interesting to see there. I mean, the archers with light armor is quite a few. Some of them are going to pay for themselves, some of them won't. That's just kind of how things go. So, very interesting game. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that. So, yeah, Scourge Runner Chariot's definitely shining through on that one. So, I'll have to, when I have time, get in here and evaluate. There's a lot of chariots in the game. The Dark Elves, of course, have the Scourge Runners, plus these more expensive Cold One chariots, extra 150 points. In theory, gives you less missile damage, no anti-large, but better melee performance, and significantly a lot more armor and HP. But the Scourge Runners there, I mean, they took some damage, but I don't think they actually lost a single unit model, which is interesting. Definitely interesting. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Have you used chariots much in this patch? What has been your thoughts on them? Have you, if you have used them, or if you've had them used against you? You know, I'd love to hear anything you have to say on the subject. So thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time.